Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Another Thursday. Woo!
Consistency, man. Consistency is everything.
It's everything.
Yeah,
Everything.
it's the big, it's the big thought
Indeed.
circle. The big thought circle. We back again. We got
Uh-huh.
Jackie, Corinne, and Mr. Keenan Hudson. We all here.
Yeah.
And the topic of the day is how thoughts become reality.
Woo! Woo!
Yeah, it's heavy. Because one of the practices I've seen in people is that people tend to take credit for all the good things that happen. As soon as something good happens, they take credit for it. I did it. Yeah, look at me. But as soon as something go bad, they blame it on God or blame it on the government.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So, I believe that, our thoughts as people and as a collective are creating the conditions that we find ourselves under in the world.
Yeah.
And that the world that we live in is a reflection of our thoughts as human beings, whether it be us per se or the trend, the way of thinking of people that influence or have some type of control of the narrative. But as it pertains to our personal lives, I feel like we the captains of the ship. Like we the captains of the ship. And a lot of things gonna happen. It's gonna be a lot of barriers and derailments and things that happen, just as things happen in our lives, things gonna happen on the ship. But at the end of the day, your job is to get it from one place to another.
Absolutely.
As the captain, it's your job to to make that destination. So I just like people to understand that regardless of what happened in our lives or what's happening in our lives, as long as we breathing, as long as we thinking, we have some control over the outcome in every situation. Absolutely. I know that's something that Jackie speak a lot about in her dealing with kids and gardening, what I'm saying? Like gardening, even the fact that like she's teaching kids how to garden, like psychologically, like that sets them up to understand that in order to create something, there's a process for it. You know what I'm saying? There's a process, even though people might like to look at a garden or enjoy the benefits of growing vegetables and things of that nature, but not everybody is willing to get in there, plant those seeds and pull those weeds and keep attending to it over a period of time and make it become beautiful. So I think that's a very important mental process to teach kids that what's going to come out is what you planted, what you created. That's important. To make a direct relationship between our actions and our outcomes.
Yeah. You make a good point. You make a good point with that. Like you said, it all starts with a thought. You know what I mean? And then you speaking it to existence. Like that's how it's going to come about. Like a lot of times, sometimes a lot of people get caught up with procrastination, with just thinking about things instead of moving it out. Moving out and making things happen. You know what I'm saying? And I know Jack, like you said, me being involved with you, be acting on it. You know what I'm saying? And making it reality. That's very important. You know what I'm saying? It's not what we do. You know what I'm saying? The things we preach. You know what I'm saying? We got to practice those things too. You know what I mean? So that's a good thing. So go ahead, Jackie. I want to hear you elaborate. You and Corinne. I want to hear y'all, your sides on, making these thoughts reality, and things like that. This is the big thought circle.
Yeah, I feel like there's two sides to that. Like you guys spoke on like the positive side, of thoughts becoming things. But I feel like it's important for us to discuss the topic because we don't realize that every thought becomes a thing. Like if we're not using the power that we have to control our mind and make the thoughts that we want to manifest. Depression can manifest, anxiety. There's all types of things that are counterproductive because we're manifesting those thoughts. We're manifesting those fears. Somebody else can put their fears in me. They can tell me that this won't, something I'm trying to do won't work because they seen 10 people do it. But I can do it, and I actually can just go against the grain and do it myself, and everybody be amazed at what I did. But there's a lot of times that we'll just feel like we can't do something, and because we feel like we can't do it, we won't do it. So I don't know. I guess I just feel like it's important for us to take note and guard our energy, and even not allow people to put certain thoughts into our head. And on top of, you know, manifesting what we want, we might say that we want this, like X, Y, and Z is what we want. But if we're allowing somebody else or like outside influences to plant thoughts into our mind, because we have two parts to our mind, our subconscious and our conscious mind. So if you have your conscious mind trying to figure, it's basically your conscious mind is taking the information that's in your subconscious mind and making decisions based on that. So if you allow all types of things to just be in your subconscious mind, and you don't know what you're going to, you know, what you're inadvertently leading yourself to believe, which is how I feel like we inadvertently end up not believing in ourselves and having low self-esteem and having low confidence, even though that's not what we, you know, necessarily intended to do. You know, to begin with.
Good point. Good point. Yeah. So what you think, Karen? I think you're on mute, Karen. Yeah. I think you're on mute right now. If there's a just log out, come back in. Hello? All right. Yeah, so like you said, yeah, having that conscious thought, that conscious mind, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, they say the mind is a terrible thing to waste. You know what I mean? When you look at a lot of people, you know, like Malcolm X, you know, Martin Luther King, you know what I mean? Nelson Mandela. You know, a lot of these people, you know, they're used to using their minds, you know, their thought processes, everything. Jackie, you back with? Corinne, you back with us? We still can't hear you for some reason. Okay, it says create the idea and then build the structures and actions to support you getting there. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
That's what our mind does for us. If we tell us, if we put it in the universe that we want anything, we put it out there that we want it. That's in our brain that this is what we want. We're naturally going to take steps to get that. And if we're doing the right things and we believe we deserve that, we're going to get whatever it is that we want. Whatever it is going to lead into action because you're doing the things that you know that you need to achieve that.
Absolutely.
I don't know if any of y'all listen to Nipsey Hussle, but he had this one line in the song where he said, spoke some things into the universe and they appeared.
Woo.
You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of these, you know why I think a lot of people that are successful become successful, and I feel like they be really dropping a lot of those type of hints and stuff like that in their songs is because like they're real big dreamers. Like they dream big. And I even heard the Baby say at the end of one of his popular songs, I forget which one it is. I think it's that bop song. But at the end, he's like, yeah, you know, the ones that go to work and dream by night or something like that. You know what I'm saying? It's a dreaming thing, you know, like I remember in the one song, Kanye West was like, I always had a passion for flashing. Before I had it, I closed my eyes and imagined the good life. You know what I'm saying?
It's the imagination. We can't allow anybody to put a cap on our imagination or on our creativity because that's where you start to end up putting limitations on yourself. And now you don't believe in yourself. You don't believe you can do these things. But it starts with your imagination, with not having imagination and not being able to dream.
Yeah, because most times you got to remember, too, though, that a lot of times that comes from the influences around us. Like, you know what I mean? Like you said, because people you know, they have a tendency, and this is like majority, this is like 90%. People have a tendency of putting your dreams and your aspirations down, you know, because they don't have none, or they don't know how to use a thought process or a thinking process per se, and they try to shoot you down. You know what I'm saying? So we always have to be mindful of who's around us too. You know, like we said before, like even with the youth, us dealing with that, you know, in a household, if our parents and stuff like that is putting us down on a daily basis and saying we won't be nothing, we're gonna start believing that. Right. You know, but go ahead, Andre. I see you had your hand up.
Nah, I was gonna say, I want Corinne, I think her thing is back on, but I just wanted to add on to what you were saying. There's a saying that goes something like this: the quickest way to crush a dream is to share it with somebody who has a small mind. You know what I'm saying? Because just like you said, Keenan, like they're gonna be the ones that tell you, "Oh, you can't do that. You crazy, you tripping." Yeah. I want to hear what Corinne has to say.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, you know, this idea of like imagining what you want and thoughts become things. For me, it's really hard, and I think it's a practice to learn to do that well. And for me, it's really tough. But my thing is like kind of how I deal with that is because I'll tell you why it's tough. Because this is probably not good or healthy, but the way my brain works is my brain's like, well, you can't, you know, imagine this having this wonderful thing in your life, because then I'll be so disappointed if I don't get it, and I'll feel really bad if I don't get it, and I'll be my like esteem will drop if I don't get it, because I'll tell myself that it's because me, if I fail, because I'm not good enough, whatever. So you can see my brain is very challenging in this area. But like what I have done, where I can tell you where I've been successful despite this very bad pattern of thinking in my brain, is that I'm like, okay, whatever the thing is, I'm just gonna do it, and I might not have an expectation attached to it, but maybe I say, like, if I have a financial, if I'm like, okay, I want to, you know, improve my savings in my bank account, like I just kind of figure out, okay, well, what 2 or 3 things can I do that are going to help me to do that? You know, like where can I reduce my spending? I write a little bit on medium.com, and I don't have any attachment to like, oh, I need this article to have 1 million views or 5,000 views or 500 views. I have no attachment to that.
I try not to have expectations.
Yeah. Like I'm just going to do something that like feels right to me and that feels good enough for me. Cause you know, we all have that like internal kind of monitor of like, I know that I've tried my best. I know I feel really satisfied with this thing, or I know that I've not, you know, I know that I've kind of just put in the bare minimum. It's not that great. So like I try not to think about expectations or even like what I want, but more, and again, like maybe this isn't the best approach. It's kind of the best approach that I've been able to figure out thus far. But I'm more like, okay, well, it's almost a serenity prayer, right? Like there's what I can control and what I can't control. And I'm like, if I can, I'm just going to kind of do these few actions right now that will be in service of that goal. But I'm not going to, like, it's almost like I don't say it out loud. And I have a friend who does vision boards, and every 10 years she does a vision board. Every 10 years, 90% of her vision board has come true. So that's how she kind of like manifests her. So I guess it's kind of like, you know, everyone's different, obviously, and different things work for different people. But I feel like there's kind of a lot of tools out there. Like maybe people kind of do it like me, and they're like, I'm just going to choose these 2 or 3 actions and kind of see where that takes me. Maybe people do a vision board, like my friend, who every financial, personal, professional, everything that she wants in the next 10 years will go in that vision board, and she looks at that thing every day, you know. So I guess I'm saying that there's different tools out there for kind of depending on how people's brains work, to help them out in that area. Yeah.
And the vision board thing, that's basically the same thing. You're putting all those things in your subconscious mind. You're feeding your computer what it needs to know. So now you're going to become aligned with things. And like I feel like when I used to pray, religiously, when I used to pray, I would like, my thing with like with not having the expectation would be like, maybe it wasn't meant to be or something like that, because of Like anything else could have happened. Like, you know, God knows what's best, basically. So, or the timing isn't right or anything like that. But like now when I look at it, like if I'm manifesting something and it's not coming to me, it's because I'm not aligned. Like I know that I'm not aligning with, like, I gotta vibrate higher. I need to vibrate on a different frequency than I am. And then I feel like I know these things are gonna come to me, because the moment I do, I start like things start coming to you. Like it's just like when you get a car and the next thing you know, you just see that same car everywhere. Like your mind works that way. It's like it picks out. It's what we see. It changes what we see. And even like when you can't change, it's a saying that goes like, when you can't change, if you can't change something, you gotta change the way you look at it. So even if it's something that you think you're manifesting that you want, and it makes you feel bad about it because you didn't go, like there's something wrong with you. You just gotta change the way you're looking at it, because it's just things that you need to do. And sometimes we have to be more present. We have to be here in the now. If you're asking for something in the future, but there's something right in the now that you're missing, you're not going to get there. You're not going to get what it is that is meant for you until you see what's right in front of you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And you bring up a good point too, Jackie. Like when you said like usually it's that roadmap, you know, that's going to get us where we're going to go. And a lot of times y'all hear me talk about with Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams have like something that's called like a 4Ms plan, a universal 4Ms, right? So a lot of that has to do with our thought process, but he has it like on paper. So when he talk about the 4Ms, when he talk about mapping, knowing where you're going, you know, writing that down, putting that in perspective. Okay, maybe a goal 6 months, maybe a year, but you're writing it down. You know what I'm saying? Then you may have, you know, your mentorship. You know, who's the people that's pouring into you? You know what I mean? Who's going to help you, you know, be on top of you when you slack, you know, or where you lack or where you need help. You know what I'm saying? Your mentorship, you know, your mental health and wellness. You know, are you okay? Are you able to function through these things? Are you depressed? Are you going through things? Do you have what it takes to get to where you're going? You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, and then around that goes to like mediation. You know, have you considered all your options? Have you considered different things? You know what I mean? That plays a big role. Like, I mean, like the things you just brought up, like it's essential. Like you said, being the here and now, being present and developed. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these things, you know, being present in the now, like you say, it may be something right in front of you right now that you're supposed to be reaching out to. A blessing could be right in front of you right now, but it's not the blessing that you were trying to look for in your natural eyes. You know what I'm saying? But here it is. It's a blessing right in front of you, but you don't want it. You just refusing it because it didn't come in the way you thought it was going to come. So again, embracing the opportunities that's before you. You have to embrace them. You know what I'm saying? Like even the connections that we have, you know, even coming on the platform, us understanding each other. Hey, Maria, how you doing, Maria? Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Us coming together, you know, the platform, you know, this can turn into something major. You know what I'm saying? We had a vision. We saw it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, wow, we're doing it. We putting it into action. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's major. You know, that's a good thing. It's a good analogy, the way you place that, because people really need to hear that. You know what I mean? So.
All right, here goes something right here from Lisa Ping.
Okay.
Structures and actions can also include blocks on your calendar to allow you to not let anything else become more important. Get mentors and be a mentor. Hold yourself accountable and be in integrity with yourself. Don't let fires divert all of your energy and attention.
It's crazy because when I put mentor is something that I put on my vision board because I wanted to be a mentor. And then like that same week was when the mentor I have now told me that she's like, I'll mentor you while you mentor her. And she basically took me under her wing, and I realized how much help I really need. I'm like, I don't know why I didn't get a mentor sooner. Even like there's mentors you can get for like school or for business, that's free mentors. And it's just something that you kind of look at, and I don't know why I didn't value a mentor, but it took to actually have one and see what she has to offer, that to, you know, really realize that, you know, everybody can benefit from having a mentor.
And who's the mentor that you're referring to?
Juanita Grant from the Cram on Uptown. She has the it's Christian reentry. I'm not sure. It's like it's a reentry group though, but she also helps people write nonprofits. She got out of prison like 1996 and changed her life all the way around. Is doing a lot of good things.
Lisa, I meant Darla speaks real highly about her.
That's Darla. That's all right. So Darla's daughter is my mentee, and because I went to her about helping, I just reached out to her because that was somebody that I was told was a resource for my mentee, and then she offered mentorship to me, and then come to find out she writes nonprofits, and I'm actually starting one. So like everything just kind of like went hand in hand where I can do the physical part. I can, I do things with kids anyway, like without having, like my nonprofit isn't even, it's not even up and running yet on paper, I guess, like, or it physically is because we still do things. I still do things with the kids, but she's helping me to actually make it so that way it's a tax exempt program.
I love that idea of mentors. It makes me think of, I'm not in recovery for myself, but I've been around the recovery community for quite a while, recovery from addiction. And as anyone who's in that community knows, a huge part of recovery is having a sponsor. So that's someone who's at least a year in recovery, and is someone whom you can call and rely on for advice when you're feeling like your tank is low, when you're feeling scared, all these things. And I just feel like the recovery model, I'm going to repeat what Kristen Bell said, who herself is not in recovery, but is the spouse of someone who is. And she's like, Alcoholics Anonymous is for everybody. Like, it's just a great way to live. And again, one of those key components is a sponsor. And I've never had a mentor. And this conversation is so helpful to me because I'm really interrogating, would that be a really helpful thing for me to have? Because, we all have kind of the way our culture is right now, unfortunately. Our American culture, like we can kind of go a while without connecting with people who are older from us, like maybe on our jobs, but that's kind of about it. It's like you've got your friend group, your peers. And I just feel like, or at least the culture that like I'm a part of and I grew up in, like the only older folks that I really kind of consistently connect with are relatives. And, as we all know, that there's a wide variety in terms of our family, in terms of who we feel like can be helpful for us to reach our goals, and then who may not be. And it's just, I don't know. It's the first thing I think about when I interrogate the question of like, should I get a mentor? Could that be really helpful for me? Is fear, because I think there's such vulnerability that comes with that. Like just asking the question, asking someone to take their time, asking someone to kind of bet on you in a sense. But I just feel like it could be a wonderful, to just see someone who's maybe like 5 or 10 years older, who you're like, you know what, that person's doing it right. And then to just find out what they know and find out what their approaches are. I really, really love that idea. And I love what Kristen Bell said, that like Alcoholics Anonymous is for everyone. So the things that work for Alcoholics Anonymous are things that can work for everyone,
I feel like there's kind of like a stigma on things that are like getting help or having like or needing somebody, like even when besides like mentorship, even like counseling and things like that. Like it's something that anybody can benefit from. When I was in prison, I went to every group. In Dauphin County Prison, you don't get out your cell except for 1 hour. So I'm going to NAAA. The YMCA came and had domestic violence, and every group that I went, I learned something. Like it's not like, you don't have to go through something to take away from a situation or to see how it can help you or help you to help somebody else. And even with like the AA thing, like there's a lot of stuff, even like I don't feel like I was an alcoholic, but when I heard a lot of their stories in the beginning, it's like, well, if you could actually learn that you're on the road to becoming an alcoholic just based on their beginning stories and hearing the things that they go through. The same thing with domestic violence. I'm like, I didn't think my relationship was that bad, but when I'm hearing the stuff that y'all going through, it's like, that's like, the beginning stages of it. I was just in chapter like 2 or 3 or something like that. Whereas, other people might have got further along, but if you're actually talking to people and hearing what they're going through, you can identify stuff like that. And even finding out how you can find the right mentor. Like if you talk to people who have mentors, you can figure out, okay, well, now I can figure out how to go about having a mentor. Honestly, I think if you just network, they kind of just come along on accident. That's how it happened for me. But like I said, I feel like I kind of aligned myself where I'm open to it. And now, because there was another person, James Randolph, I was going back and forth with. I look at him like a mentor as well, because we were bouncing ideas back and forth about my program a few months ago. He's part of Voices for the Voiceless. And like you can actually, your friends can be your mentor. It's about allowing people to be your mentor, I think, more so than finding a mentor, because even your friends can be a mentor. All my friends, every friend that I have, I consider myself a mentor to them, honestly. But whether they look at me like a mentor and take from what I'm saying is a different story.
That's true too, but and sometimes trust plays a big factor too. But even aside from the trust, having that right mentor, like meaning, all right, you got a lot of youth that's on the streets. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times when we grew up, we look at the drug dealers as being the top dogs and the mentors, the ones we wanted to be like. So sometimes those people that we want to be like, they have to be some type of positive influence in the right way. Not somebody that's going to flash money around but can't guide you nowhere. You know what I'm saying? They can't, try to, show, okay, I got the big will, but they're not telling you, they can't keep gas in the tank. You know what I mean? So it depends on where you're searching for that mentor, who you want to pour into your life. You know what I'm saying? It's so much that goes on. So I see here, it says, Ms. Lisa Payne said, be vulnerable. It says, show your human side. Raising my hand as an older person, I am surprised at how many people call me mom because I showed them my own vulnerability. Keenan Hudson, and then she showed how to find a mentor. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's amazing, giving these outlets, showing how to find a mentor. But like I said, even going back to the trust issue, a lot of times, people who don't trust people. Me, I have, a lot of trust issues with people. You know what I'm saying? Been turned on. I mean, a lot of us have been through different things. You know what I mean? But sometimes, I keep people in the circle. I got to keep my circle real tight. Just because somebody in your circle, they don't mean they're in your corner. You dig what I'm saying? So it's more and it's tough out here in the world, because out here in the world, people are trying to mask up too much. Versus when you're inside, you're around people daily. You know who people are over time because you spend so many time. As I mentioned before, sometimes we may know strangers better than we don't know our own family because we've been around them for so much. But out here in the world, people try to mask up, try to hide behind things until you get around them and stuff like that. And then you see what they're really about. So again, finding that mentor, having that mentor is extremely important. I encourage, even the ones that's listening, look for a mentor, look for somebody that's going to push you in the right direction. You know what I mean? Like I said, like even me, like my mentor that helped me like do a lot of things was a lady that was probably over 70 years old. But she was showing me, but not necessarily showing me how to be a man, but showing me step by step on how to live. You know what I'm saying? How to pay bills, how to manage credit, how to leverage it. How to take, how your credit takes you places where your money can't. You know what I'm saying? So these is a lot of things, that's essential that a lot of people don't, a lot of mentors may not be able to do. Because you may have mentors that are probably in debt, probably can't dig themselves out of a hole. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you gotta be very careful who you do it. And you can have multiple mentors. A mentor can be anybody but yourself. Because if you're trying to teach yourself, you only can teach yourself with so much. Because you don't know too much. You got to get with people that been there, done that. You know what I'm saying? That's going to take you to that next level. So,
I really agree with the idea of like your friends can be your mentors too. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be. I can say in my life where I've gotten the most, I've just learned the most about living well and being strong and living in a healthy way has been from my two closest friends. Because they just, for a myriad of reasons, they're just very wise and they have a lot of good advice to give. And so so it's been an incredible circle with them, like hearing advice from them. And what's interesting is that one of my closest friends, who is a therapist herself, a very good therapist, she said something the other day. She called herself lazy. And I got on her and I was like, don't call yourself lazy. You're not lazy. And then we had this kind of, and I said, that sounds so judgmental. And don't judge yourself, have compassion for yourself. And I literally said to her, I was like, well, this is the stuff you tell me all the time, and I'm just repeating it back to you. So I feel like, we talked last week or 2 weeks ago about like the people that you have in your life. And I feel like that, that's kind of feeding into this conversation to say that, like, if maybe you don't have an official a mentor, but if like there's folks in your life who can give you good advice and be really encouraging and be really loving, and then like that's a version of that. My best friend and I were literally saying a couple weeks ago that that there's stuff that we've taught each other over a 20-year friendship that we can name, that we've helped each other to grow, and then there's stuff that we just can't name. Like, I just know I'm smarter, or I know that I'm wiser, or I know that I'm more compassionate or something, and it's because of him, but I can't say, like, I can't exactly name it. And then the other thing I will say about friends as mentors is that I've had a really challenging experience the last couple weeks dealing with a family member who has a health issue. And what I find myself repeating the small group that I'm in, who's helping this family member with the health issue, I'll say, oh, my friend Sarah says this, or, oh, my friend, I'm not using their real names, so I'm trying to make them names. My friend Ben says that. And I found myself so many times repeating their wisdom to this small group that I've been in the last 2 weeks. And again, it's that idea of friends as mentors. Like these folks have taught me so much, and now I'm able to not only apply that information to the situation I'm in, but actually teach others the great wisdom that they've taught me.
Yeah, right. I think having that in our personal life is important, but like taking a step outside and like getting somebody that's like in the field that you're in or want to be in, and like they're like, they have more experience than you. Finding somebody like that will take you like a long way. My friend, one of my best friends, works for this company, and they do this thing where they do your personality test, and they figure out like your personality type, and then they assign you a mentor in the company that's like has like more seniority on you. And like, so she's basically mentored by somebody who's like where she eventually wants to be, so she gets to see how his job is. She gets to see what a day is like with him. They sit down, they talk, they read a book together, bounce those things back and forth off of each other. And even when she comes and, when she comes back and tells me about it, like, your mentor affects you, but then they're also like the things that you learn, like they, that spreads further than just that person. But I feel like it's important to it helps you to visualize yourself in their shoes when you can see somebody doing what you want to do, or somebody that achieved things that you thought weren't possible. Like even with like Andre, with his success in fighting the system, that's something like there's a lot of people that I've heard a lot of stories that I really, like, we sat there and talk about, that's not right. Yeah, you can sue them. Nobody actually has the balls to actually do it and go through it, or believes in their stuff that I can, I can take one of these people and I can, because they tell you, they say, oh, a lawyer who, I think it's supposed to, a lawyer who represents himself as a fool or something like that. Like, you go to, if you go in the law library, it's completely discouraging. Nothing about that place tells you that you can fight your case and that you could win. Nothing about the guy that's helping you. Even everything he tells you is basically gives you a little speech about how it's for entertainment purposes, and he's not a lawyer. So, those things, they make you feel like you can't do something. Those things that make you feel like, but getting a mentor is something that will make you feel like you can do it. Even reading his book. If you sit there and read, what's it, Law and Litigation? Is it that one?
War and Litigation?
War and Litigation. Like, you read that one and you sit there, you read and you can picture yourself in the courtroom. You can picture yourself. You can actually see, even seeing the COs and seeing from his point of view in the courtroom, but you're seeing the COs getting the pressure put on them, and you're seeing the people ruling in favor of somebody who is an inmate. That makes you feel like, what, these people, once you get into court, once you let them see the write-ups, once they have to explain it and they can't explain it, now they look just as bad as me. But it feels like nobody's going to believe you when you're in that position. It feels like everything they say just goes. It doesn't matter if it was on camera or not. I was fighting in the county, and it was in the shower area, right? So All right, and I was wrong because I was trying to lie and say that I wasn't, but because there's no camera, so you can't prove that I was. Nobody actually seen me. So I wrote a appeal to try to appeal it, saying that I wasn't when I was trying to break up the situation, and I left. The only person that said I was fighting was the girl's girlfriend who got beat up. She said I was all the way in the top tier when she yelled up and said that I beat up her girlfriend. They come up there, they come get me. I go to the appeal line, and they're saying after my appeal, they said that they find me guilty because there's nothing that says that I'm not guilty because there's no showers there. But how can you say that? Like, that doesn't make sense. How can you say that I'm just because there's no, like, you know what I mean? There's no cameras there, so you can't say I'm not guilty. So how can you say that I'm guilty if nobody seen me anyway? Like, no CO seen me. I had six different inmates that were witnesses on her. They didn't call one inmate to my court line with me to say that I wasn't, because in reality, I was trying to de-escalate the situation. When I went in there the first time, I said that they weren't going to fight. So all the witnesses thought I wasn't fighting too, because the first time I went in there to break up a situation. But they do whatever they want. And then once you're in that position where it's like, all right, I can't really do anything but accept this piece of paper, sit here. But if somebody believes in themselves, you can actually do something about that where they're not going to get away with doing things. That situation, obviously I was guilty, like I said, but there's other situations, like we were out there protesting because there was a young boy that he lost his life in the county because the COs beat him up. They felt like he was guilty of what he was charged with. And in reality, they don't know what happened. They thought he was disrespecting his mom and his dad. They thought he was fighting. They looked at him like that. So they treated him like that. The things that they said that he died, his cause of death. This is Tyreek Riley I'm speaking about. Rest in peace. The things that they said that he was that were his causes of death are the same thing that earthquake victims suffer from. So how can you say it's because of they try to make it seem like it was because he did coke at some point in his life? It was in his hair. That's the reason why he got sick the way he did and died. It doesn't make sense. The coroner took 2-3 months before he even made a report. He went on vacation down to some creative writing camp while we were up here protesting, trying to figure out what was going on. Then he comes back with that creative story about how the young man died. But these are things that they get along with, that they get away with, because our voices are silenced. There's not really anything we can do about it. But that's because of us. Honestly, like we believe that. If we when we were out there and people were telling us like there's things that we can do, but like they're actionable things that we have to do besides standing outside and besides like making our signs and yelling and screaming and stuff like that. Because of the belief that we can't do these things, like that's what makes us think that like that this is our place right here to hold these signs. But in reality, there's places for us, and I didn't know there's all types of jobs in Harrisburg, like on different boards and stuff like that people need help. But we sit at home. We don't go to city council meetings or the town hall meetings. Like we'll complain when they do things, and then somebody, like I see it in the Concerned Citizens. People will complain about Concerned Citizens is a group on Facebook for Harrisburg. But you'll see people complaining about things, and people say, "Oh, well, we had this meeting with Capital Region Water, and they planted these plant beds because it has something to do with the water and the flooding and stuff down there. It'll be a reason behind it and everything, but we don't know because we don't put ourselves in those rooms because of our beliefs, because of what we believe."
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Andre.
Now, I was just gonna say a lot of people think, feel, and as a result believe that their voice doesn't matter or that they can't have an impact on the system.
Mm-hmm.
So when stuff like that come up, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's all these fast talking politicians in there. What does my voice matter?" Right. It's their own thoughts that's keeping them out the room. When in all actuality, the people who don't show up in the room are in many cases the most credible people to speak on these issues that affect the communities.
Jackie and I were having this conversation right before the broadcast started, just about the idea of like recognizing recognizing your voice is important, and I think it's particularly something that women struggle with, because we're taught to, you know, just kind of be in the corner, make sure, you know, everything's functioning well at home, but don't speak out. And I so deeply agree with this idea of, like, it goes back to the serenity prayer, right? Serenity prayer is what is not in my power, and I need to accept that because it's not in my power, right? Like, I can't like change mass incarceration with the snap of my fingers. What is in my power? And like, as we're saying, like, there is so much in our power to step up and to just try. And at the very least, what you gain is that you can say you tried. You know, even if nothing changes, nothing happens. It reminds me of, I was watching a video with Gloria Steinem speak, and this woman in the audience got up and she said, "Oh, well, like, you know, I'm facing this really difficult situation."
Everybody's breaking up real fast.
Oh.
I think it's you. I think it's your feed that's breaking. I think it's your service, Tina. Because Andre, can you hear her clear?
Okay.
I can, yeah.
Yeah.
Only
Yeah, I
person
think
that can't be heard clear is Keenan.
Okay, got you. This is mine. Hold on,
Yeah, I
let me see
think it's
something.
your
But this woman in the crowd had stood up and she said, "You know, I'm facing this really difficult situation, and I think it's nearly impossible to combat it so that the right thing happens." And this woman kind of was like going on, and then Gloria Steinem just interrupted her and goes with her microphone and goes, "Do it anyway." And then the woman goes, "Excuse me?" And then Gloria Steinem goes, "Do it anyway." And that was the only thing she said, was those 3 words. And I just thought it was genius and brilliant. And, you know, even when we talk about for our own esteem, again, at least I can say, like, I wrote that letter. I showed up to that city council meeting. I so agree with that. And, you know, Andre and I initially got connected because I do some work helping other white folks to know what they can do to end white supremacy. And something that I hear often from other white folks is like, "Oh, but it's not worth it. Like, oh, I can't change it. I can't. And what I say to them is, I'm like, that's exactly what white supremacy wants you to think and do and say. Like, you're completely, fully cooperating with white supremacy when you do that. And obviously it doesn't have to be white supremacy. It can be whatever the situation is, but like, don't fully cooperate with the thing that harms you or the thing that's not good for you. You know, I really, because I believe so strongly that that those in power who gain from our loss, that's one of the messages that they send out loud and clear. It's like, well, you can't do anything, and so they don't even have to like put up a fight, because we don't put up a fight. And so that's something that I just think is unbelievably important. Is like the words of Gloria Steinem, like, do it anyway. Whatever it is, do it anyway.
You know, in my book that Jackie referenced, War and Litigation, I talk about how when I was going to trial for that case, they had you know, they had offered me $10,000 to not go forward with it. At that time, I never had $10,000. You know, that was a lot of money for me in my situation. But first of all, it was about a bigger issue for me than money. It was about a bigger issue than that. But even the guys who taught law in the prisons was telling me, I think you should just take the money and roll, because you know, only 3% of the cases that prisoners file go to trial. And most of the time they lose. And even if they do win, it's a small amount of money. It's only going to be about maybe 10,000 or 5,000 if you win. They're so much better than you. They're so much more experienced. When they start asking you this, you're gonna have to know what to say. And have you ever read this book and that book and this book? And just the whole time though, like in my mind, I'm just like, this is a reflection of what you think. You know what I'm saying? This is what you think. You think that you can't win, so you think that I can't win. You want me to believe that I can't win because you think that you can't win. You know? And I dealt like, I mean, I can't even think of, matter of fact, it was one of my neighbors. And it's funny because the person who was actually in my ear telling me that he thought that I could win was somebody who is probably the least likely person, you know, in my city, to say these things. Like Jackie probably know this guy. But he was the one in my ear. You know, I'm reading him my opening statements. I'm like, look, I'm gonna tell him this. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this. You know, like people used to move next door to me, and I'd be like, yo, don't think I'm tripping if you hear me talking. Like I'm over here practicing. I'll be in the mirror. I'll be pretending that I'm talking to the jury, pretending that I'm talking to the judge, and so forth and so on. You know, like that was a part of my process. And you know, by the time I really got the trial, you know what I mean, I discovered that you know, those practices really helped me. They really helped me once I got in front of that jury. And then it turns out, you know, I end up winning, you know what I mean? And I was crying when I won, because that was the first time that I ever felt what justice felt like, where I felt like somebody did the right thing. You know what I'm saying? And I was just happy that I won. I mean, they was running off so many numbers. They like, for conspiracy, 10,000, 5,000, 2,000, 10,000, 15,000. They just kept running it up and running it up. But only every time they said something, all I heard was justice, 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 justice. And it was overwhelming. You know what I mean? It was overwhelming. But I just say all that to say, like in my book, I talk about just thought process and mentality. You know what I mean? And a lot of that I learned through some of those type studies about, you know, universal laws of attraction, like attracts like, and all of that kind of stuff. But also war, you know what I mean? War and chess. You know what I'm saying? I make a move, you make a move. You know, you make a move, I make a better move. And you know, that whole thought process and approach, you know, made the difference. So, you know, the book is called War and Litigation. It's available on supremenetwork.org. And it's not just about law. It's about mental approach and how to win in life.
Yeah, and I got that sense, like when I was reading it, I felt like I don't know, it was just like, you know, you're just happy to see him, like you happy to see somebody finally getting justice for a situation. Like it gives you, it puts emotion behind the feeling, and that's why I feel like it would be good for anybody who is trying to go pro se, or somebody who is you know, facing a situation where they gotta go fight them themselves. Like it kind of like makes the opponent seem smaller than they appear to be. And you know, and the way we look at it seems like it's like David against Goliath is how it seems. But when you actually see somebody else going and like chopping them down to size, it makes you believe in yourself. And then that right there, like even you know, you were saying when you were practicing and you're like bouncing it off of people, and that person telling you like, you can do this, that's somebody helping you to put the emotion behind your thought. And that's what turns it into the action, because that's what if we can feel strongly about something, like the stronger you feel about it, the more likely you are to achieve whatever it is that because especially like you're not the first person. I read about it at Think and Grow Rich. Different people that I know that are that, you know, they're successful at whatever it is that they do. They tell me like they talk to themselves in the mirror. They hype themselves up. They like me personally, like I talk to myself, but I don't sit there like and talk to myself. Like I don't sit there and like, you know, high five myself and be like, you know, you go girl, all that type of shit. But like people say that, you know, when you do, they say the more you do, like, and I believe it. The more you get into it and you hype yourself up, like you be your biggest hype man, that's something that will take you just further than you were going to go if you were sitting here not believing in yourself and thinking that you may or may not do it, or you don't really care what happens with, you know.
And the more that you believe, the more that the people who watching you and listening to you are going to believe. In that case, right? In that case, that first case that I won like $40,000 on something that I never even proved my claim on. I never even proved my claim, but the jury was just so on my side. They was like paying for that, that. You see what I'm saying? Just because they liked it me. You You know, so eventually, you know, it got overturned on appeal because they looked in the record and was like, he didn't present any evidence on this claim, you know? Mm-hmm. But I just say that to say, like, when you believe it, like when you really believe it, and you know, like people could feel it, you know, they want to root for you because you know, because like we're really so much alike. You know, we experience one thing that's universal is emotion. No matter where you go, you know, anywhere in the world, no matter what language you speak, like emotion, like what we feel can like other people can relate to it no matter what. We all experience those fear, that feeling of inadequacy. You know, like Keenan spoke about not trusting people, you know, all these different things. Like we all connect as individuals, as human beings. So you know, when you come forward and stand up for people, when you stand up for people, other people gonna feel it, other people gonna connect with it.
It makes me think of that idea, or not even idea. I think it's like a scientific basis, but 80% of communication is nonverbal. So, you know, whatever you were doing, like swayed the jury in some kind of way. You know, even if like it might have been somewhat verbal, but like you were saying, like our energy just touches other people. You know, like you can like walk into a room and immediately kind of know. Like, oh, I want to be around that person, like that person's in a really bad mood, whatever it is, like so I do this might sound a little hippy dippy, but I do love that idea of just like your energy, like what energy are you putting out, you know, like are you open and warm, are you interested and engaged with other people, you know, are you kind of like cold and irritated, whatever it is, but like I think like when it comes to this idea of like how do you manifest what you want, I definitely think that kind of like that energy is a part of it, and like how like what when you walk into a room with that, like it will affect other people, you know. I really believe that. Something else I was thinking about is that I was watching a couple days ago Billy Porter speak, and I'm a big fan of Billy Porter. He is the man who plays the MC in Pose, and he's been on Broadway for some time. Black gay man, probably in his mid-50s now, and he was saying that since in the mid-90s, obviously this culture and country was very unfriendly to gay folks in the mid-90s. He had this idea, like he kind of like just had this vision of like, I'm going to be successful and I'm going to be a part of the like the movement that changes how I am perceived, how HIV positive people are perceived. He said I'm going to be a part of a very positive movement at a time when gay men were kind of the pariah of society, one of the pariahs of society. And I was so impressed that at that time in the mid-90s, when you would think that like all hope was lost, that's when he was saying like, oh, I'm going to be big. People are going to know my name, and I'm going to be a part of a movement to help this culture become more fair and more loving. And he said something very specific. He said, it might not be in your time, because I said this in 96 and I would have really liked it to happen in 97. Well, it didn't happen until 2020, right? So 2018 maybe. It took, I guess, over 20 years. But I love that I also love that idea that like he was saying, like not everything's not going to come on your timeline, but it will come. And I thought that was very inspirational. And for someone like me who can get very disappointed very quickly, I thought that was really, really wise advice. And just, yeah.
And just on that note, you had mentioned earlier, Corinne, that, you know, sometimes you don't want to, you know, commit to a belief because you don't want to become disappointed and so forth and so on. You use that as example, some of your writings and things like that. You know, I hope and I encourage you to go for it. You know what I'm saying? Anything I see with your name on, I'm going to support it and, you know, push it. I'm going to put the energy behind it as well. And it could be a situation like that where you just put it out. Maybe you do, maybe, you know, deep down inside, you do have that dream that, you know, one of your writings will, you know, be this big, or that when you write, people listen, or you see what I'm saying, because you got a lot of important stuff to say. And if you know, what you have to say can reach millions of people, why not? You know, so like, why shouldn't it? Why shouldn't an important message reach millions and millions of people? I support that. And I believe, you know, I believe that, and I believe in you. You know, I would just say, put that energy forward. You know, put it in motion. Let it soar. You're going in it with the right spirit. You know, you're going in it with the right spirit, and that spirit is, you're doing it because you love it. You're doing it because you love it, and because you want to you know, you want to get some good information out there. So I mean, I very much enjoyed this. You know, Jackie got me a little hype. You know, Jackie got me hyped up this time. You know what I'm saying? You know, yeah, I was feeling this, man, because this is really like, you know, like Jackie always say, you know, it's really not about the issues, it's how we think about them. You know what I'm saying? How we think about them and how we approach them. And I just really want people to understand that we the ones in control in our lives. You know, don't accept no condition or no situation that make you feel bad if you have the ability to change it. You know, just by changing the way you think, changing the way you're looking at a situation. You know what I mean? I just, you know, I really appreciate the group, Jackie, Corinne, Keenan, and all of the you know, information and insight that y'all, you know, put out there. And
absolutely. Yeah, we appreciate everybody watching. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all know, just share this video, like it. You know, we got a lot more to come. You know, if there's some type of subjects and topics y'all want to talk about, send it to the inboxes. I'm quite sure we'll always cover it. So, yeah, it's the wrap-up time. So, any last remarks for everybody?
Lisa Payne been with us throughout the whole show. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the support.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to say one more thing, because Corinne had mentioned energy, and it was kind of like at the rest of sounding like hippie-ish. But like, I'm realizing something now that, like, you know, the whole hippie thing with, you know, following like conformity, I feel like they were really onto something, like peace, like energy. Like, we're just conditioned to look at these things a certain way, so that way it takes the validity from it and makes us, it kind of takes the power from us. It makes us
the stuff that they tell us is corny is the real stuff.
Right. You know, they just make it seem like, oh, you know, that's some hippie stuff or whatever.
Same thing, like the guys in the group, you know, the guys in the group might try to influence their friend, like, you know, oh yeah, I'm going home, my wife is waiting for me. You know what I'm saying? Their friends might say, oh, she got you whipped, and no, he's doing grown man stuff. Like, that's what grown men do. You know?
But that makes you feel like, it makes you feel like some type of, it can, if you have an ego. If you would identify with your ego, then it'll make you feel like, oh, I don't want to make these people think this way of me. I need their validation. I need them to know that I'm, you know, I'm him still. It doesn't matter what she got going on. So, I don't know. I think that it's important for us to realize those things too. We got to unlearn what we were taught is. We got to learn everything that we're taught and give things a chance and give it your own, like, with an open mind. You know, look at it and understand like what these people were actually saying, because their message is powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I guess that's about the size of it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for thank you for supporting and being here. Kimberly Azim, she always there.
What's up?
Lisa Ping, Shabana. You know, we developing a strong loyal audience, man.
Yeah, they
developing a strong loyal audience. We started to see the same people come around that really, you know, support us and connect with, you know, the things that we be talking about. So let's keep the content going, and, you know, keep the connections going, and let's keep building. You know, bring some more people in the group. Let's make this big.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Bro, I'll be there. All right.
All right. Take care. I love you too, Lisa.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Bye, all.